What's up, everybody? It's Demetrice and Anika here with Clair Em Motivators. And this week, we are still discussing business and careers. And specifically, we are talking about women in business this week. And the topic is putting faith over fear. And we have a very special guest with us. It's Dr. Hala Mustafa.
Hi, everyone.
And she joined us to talk with you guys about her experience starting her own business and the importance of women owning businesses. Last week, Anika and I had another guest, and we talked about all the things that we have to juggle as women, from our careers, side hustles for a lot of us, owning our own businesses, children, relationships, friendships, taking care of ourselves. And so we just wanted to continue on this same topic, just to talk about putting faith over fear, because inevitably there will be times in your career as women where you will have to make some tough decisions. And the thing that I realized once I did have a career and have a side job and have children and have a husband and have to take care of myself was that the decisions that we make don't just impact us, it impacts everybody around us, it impacts our families. And sometimes making the decision that may be best for you, you may hesitate because of you're thinking about how it's going to affect your family. But before we jump into that, we want to do our what would motivate you most question, Hala.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick a question out of the cup, and it's going to be like a would you rather. So you'll say which one of the options you would rather do. And let me grab one. Would you rather have more free time or more money?
Huh. More free time or more free money? Or more money. Okay.
Me too.
I know free money.
I can have
I
them
like
both.
that one. I like that one better.
I want both. I want it all.
Right.
No. I would say more free time.
Okay.
Especially as a mother and a wife. I have, my daughter, she's 2 years old, and we're expecting our second child within the next few weeks. And so it when it comes to raising a family, that time goes by so fast. And so it's really precious time. And you could be so busy with work and making money and all of that that you could really miss out on just crucial milestones and family time. So that to me is priceless. And I don't think any amount of money could replace that. So I would say more free time, but it also kind of ties into why I wanted to start my own business, because I wanted to have control of my time. Family is always going to be number one to me. And I'm sure both of y'all can relate. It's like we all went to school for such a long time,
Yes.
and you love your career. You're a physician, you're an attorney, you love it, and it's a part of you. And then you also enjoy being a mother. Nothing can take that away. So it's just like you find yourself balancing those two, so you don't resent one over the other. If you're at work and you feel like you're not being a good mom or there enough times, you start resenting your career. Or if you're at home, then you start missing your job. So it's a fine balancing act. But that's why I would say just having your own business, I feel like you have a little bit more control of how you spend your time, how much time you should spend at work.
Right.
And so both things I would say, but for me, I would say for sure having freedom, spending it with my family is really crucial to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And you're right. It's definitely a constant balance. And we'll talk about it more once we get into
Mhm.
the topic. But it seems like owning your own business for you helps you kind of do both. Like I can make money in my own practice, but then I also get to control my schedule and like spend time with my family. So that's good. What about you, Anika?
So I am going to say that that was beautiful, and I agree 100% with all of that. But I am going to get more money, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because with the more money, then it is going to in turn free up my time. Reason being, I'm going to get my money, my more money they're going to give me, and I am going to make that money make me some more money so that
Yeah.
my money continues to grow. And therefore, I do not have to work as much because my money is over here growing on the side. And so, more time because I'm going to have more money and I don't have to work as much. So, I'm going to take more money.
So you didn't take the more money, meaning you had to work more. You just mean like,
Yes, because you didn't say
I didn't.
that I had to work more. You said that more money or more free time. So I'm assuming somebody's just gonna give me the money. So then I'm gonna take the free money,
Yeah.
like Hala said, free money, and then I'm gonna go ahead and make that money make me some money, so I don't have to work as much.
See,
And I have
I was thinking you're assuming work more, and I'm like,
No,
no more work, just money.
I don't really know my answer. I want to say I agree with you, Hala, that the way I interpreted it was to make more money, I'm going to have to work more. And I'm with you. I would rather spend time with my family and have more time to travel and to do something other than focus on money because it's like, and I guess maybe because the space that I'm in right now, I really feel like money is the root of all evil. And you see people doing things that are like, it's like they're putting the interest of the dollar above public health, above justice, above all the things. And so for me, now don't get me wrong, I like to have some money and I want to keep my
I'm about
savings.
to say, don't have it and see how evil it is.
I don't want any money. But
Yeah.
I'm saying if I had to choose between time and money, like Hala said, there's one of those things that can't be replaced, and that's time. You can't get more of it. You can't take it back once you spend it. And so I'm going to go with time with the understanding that I can call you and ask you to loan me
Yeah.
money that you have made.
Well, I have to think about it, okay? Because I don't want to introduce no evil into your life. So I might have to just hold out to my money.
It doesn't have to be evil. Like you can take it and you can, donate and use it for
sure,
free.
yeah.
But I'm
No,
just
I'm poking fun. I'll let you borrow some.
okay, thanks. This is on video just in case you ever forget. So Hala, first question for you, and you kind of started touching on it, but if you could elaborate, why was it important for you, especially as a Black woman, to be a business owner?
Yeah, I talked about just having flexibility. I think not just for Black women, I think for us Black people in general, we do need to just focus on owning our own businesses because I don't believe you have job security when you're working for somebody else. You really don't. They can let you go whenever they feel like it, whenever things are going up or down. So to me, having job security is important. Even though in my profession, you're always going to need a dentist. It's not really a problem, but there's just a sense of pride when you own your own business. To me, it's important to have flexibility with my family and having the time that I need to spend with them while they're growing up, making my own rules, not having to answer to anyone, and creating the type of culture for my office. Often when you're working in a different place, the people that are there, you just have to work with them. You can't really choose who you want to work with. And so I wanted to have a positive culture where I can choose who I want to see every day, and just make an impact in my community. So those are some of the things that are important to me.
Great. Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said. And you mentioned that you are a dentist. Have you had any issues or did you face any issues becoming a dentist and then opening your own practice?
Um, the only issues I faced was obviously opening during a pandemic year. It was it was an unstable period for everybody, and but I was at a point where I was just not happy. I wanted to just have my own office and create the own culture and organization that I wanted for my patients. And I would say we were a little bit worried, is this the time to open? Is it not the time to open? But I definitely did my research just to make sure that everything was okay with that when it comes to the finances. One thing about dentistry, it tends to be recession proof. There's usually no issues with it. Only like less than 2% of dental practices fail. Like you'd have to try really hard to fail as a business. So, I think just doing the research and understanding where I wanted to be in life at this point helped me move forward with it. It was a pandemic, yeah, but it worked out in our favor. So I was happy with that.
And I'm going to throw a question in. It's not really a surprise because you've lived it. if there's someone watching this who's interested in dentistry, how long is dental school? Like, how
Um,
long did you have to go to school total?
yeah, it took me about basically 8 years to become a dentist, 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of dental school. And some people like to do residencies afterwards or specialize. I chose to be a general dentist because I like to see all cases. I don't want to see the same thing every day. So, but if it behooves you to specialize, it depends on the type of residency that you want to do, whether it's pediatrics or oral surgery. And so, those are additional schooling years. Yeah.
And then you said that you decided to open your own practice. I think that's a good point that you said that going into dentistry, like you said recession proof, I think was the word that you used. Just that's
Yeah.
a profession that everyone is always going to need. And I always think about that with her, like, especially now you see but not public health officials, doctors, nurses, like those are very important.
Healthcare is always
Yeah.
need for sure.
Yeah, so for people that are out there that are watching, especially for younger people that are watching, that are trying to figure out what to do. I know a lot of times when you say, like, for me, it took 7 years to become an attorney and then taking the bar exam. It took you, what, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, and how many
So
years?
it was 11 for me.
Okay. But on the other side of that, you have job security, regardless if you work for someone else or don't, or start your own business or whatever, like mom used to always tell us, that's something that people can't take away from you. And you can,
Now, I will jump in because it may be a shocker to you all because it was a shocker to me that 2020 showed for physicians, you would think in a pandemic that secured your job. That wasn't the case because the way that medicine is set up, it's a fee for service. And if nobody comes in because we are in the middle of a pandemic and we're shut down, that changed what it looked like. So there are offices, as physician offices, that have closed that were on their own and not tied to a big system. They actually closed. But even with that said, your education, you have the degree on your wall is not tied to your job, so you can pick that degree up and go forth and go on. So that doesn't mean I don't have a job, but for medicine, job security actually did look a little different in 2020.
I
right.
will add, I will add that too, Anika. Some private offices, a very small ones, some of them did have to, basically go out of business. So it's similar as well, but overall, most people did okay, I
Right.
would say. But
That's such a crazy circumstance that we hope
Yes.
never ever happen again. But just typically,
Yeah,
you have a
but
little,
yeah, before a pandemic, and hopefully this will be 100 years before this happens again, and we won't have to be talking about it. But yeah, you do have job security.
yeah.
right. So as a woman, have there been times through your dental, when you're going to school, when you decide to start your own practice, has there been a time where you've had to put your faith over your fear? Because people hear us talk, and I'm sure it sounds intimidating that, like, oh, I went to school for 7 years, and
Yeah.
then you have a 2-year-old, you're about to have a baby. That's a lot. And so was there a specific time that you can recall where you had to kind of step out on faith and put your fears to the side and say, no, I'm going to do this. This is worth it to me?
Yeah, well, with just opening my office right now, that was scary because I was thinking, should we delay it another year? I mean, it got to the point where, we were working with like our real estate agents and finding the space. Initially, I couldn't even find the space that I wanted because everybody like jumped in and got the space that they wanted. And I was just like, okay, is this a good time? And then people were backing away from those spaces. So I was looking like the only one who wanted to build an office. And I was like, is this a smart decision? But it just went back to me doing my homework and research and I couldn't see myself going back and being an associate in a different office. I just couldn't. This is just the way that I wanted to practice because I didn't have a good experience, I would say, with my last job. And so I was just ready to move forward. I feel like after I did my homework and research and we were financially like ready to take on that, I just left the rest to God. And I've never been disappointed in my life with all the decisions that I've made. I just do my best and leave the rest to God and have been pretty happy. So
And I'm sure, even in that, like I was saying earlier, you have to weigh, because it's not just you. You have to weigh what that means for your husband, what that means for
A
your
new
daughter,
family, a new
and your
child.
family, right? And your legacy. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that you have to consider that sometimes it's scary to take that step. But I'm a believer with you that you take the step once you've done your, research, and not just jumping out for a free fall and hoping that it works out, but you're
Yeah.
actually thoughtfully, considering what's best for you, what's best for your family. I think that's great. Anika, what about you? Have there been times where you've had to like step out on faith and kind of put your fears aside and just trust that God would take care of it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the funny things that I've noticed about myself is that even just the thought of being a physician, because there was nobody that I could lean on to say, hey, you did this. How did it work out for you? Because I was, I always say there wasn't any footprints necessarily in the sand in my immediate circle. But what I've noticed is, so with the more responsibilities that come along, the further that I would get, the more people whom I've added into the family, my fears would grow, because to go out to medical school, when I made that decision, or to even do this, I made that decision by myself. I didn't have a husband at that time, nor did I have kids. Now they all came along the way. And so I'm going through. But then I find myself done with school, practicing for a decade, and noticing that I'm no longer fulfilled. Now, it was a shocker to me, myself, because this was my forever. I hung up my stethoscope here. I love my community. I love my patients. I love my partners. I should be happy, but it's something nagging at me that, I just kind of would quiet down. You know what? It's okay. I can't just up and move. What about my husband? What about my kids? What about all the responsibilities that I have? And so it was in that fear of just, okay, you have a good job, you have a good career. Why do you feel this way? Something must be wrong. Just quiet that down. And so I did that for the longest. And 2020 comes, and like I say, it was an awakening in a different way, because if life ended right now, and even though I've done and I've set out most of what I said I wanted to, I'm sitting here unfulfilled and willing to just sit here because I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to disappoint my patients. I don't want to disappoint my kids. I don't want to let somebody know, well, you know what? I don't quite know if this is what I'm going to be able to continue to do. 2020 comes, and life is too short. Like you ladies have said, God has never steered me wrong. And He is keeping me uncomfortable in my seat for a reason. It is time to move around. And it's not, and letting fear keep you in your seat is not fair to yourself. And so 2020 comes, and just knowing, okay, I have to kind of go and figure out what more can I do? What else can I do, even, with my degree? And so then that led me to do something that was crazy. I left my job without necessarily having a job set up. But me being who I am, I kind of put stuff in place so that I can take a moment, step back, financially be okay, and figure out what is it that you want to do? What is it that is calling to you? And so with that, I was able to kind of step back, figure out what I want to do, figure out what that looks like for me. And I've been able to kind of transition it into a role that I am so excited to give a try, because it is so different than anything I've ever saw myself doing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, seriously. I was watching this interview, I think it was last year, and it was Shonda Rhimes, the the screenwriter.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how she had to make a conscious decision to go after her dreams. And she was saying that what hit home for her was a lot of the like Mother's Day cards and things will say, "Oh, thank you, mom. You sacrificed for us. You put your dreams on hold, and you really, made sure that we had everything." And she said that she would see those and just think, why is that the expectation for us? Why, like you started out saying, Hala, like, why can't we have it all? Why can't I? Like, obviously being a parent is always going to be a sacrifice, but
Yeah.
when you hear people describe it as, I can't pursue my dreams, I can't go after the things that I want because I had kids, For her, she was just saying that she wasn't willing to live in that space and that she was just going to trust that it was all going to work out and
Yeah.
trust that she would be able to explain to her kids, for her specifically, the times that she wasn't there to see them get an award or something, that she was trying to build a legacy for them and to hope that, they would be able to understand that when they were older and to appreciate that. And that really stuck with me because I think it's so true that a lot of times for us as women, when you talk amongst each other, it's like, we are always weighing everything, always trying
Mhm.
to figure out what's best for everybody else. And I think, to have examples of us saying like, hey, no, it's hard and it's scary sometimes, but you have to be true to yourself, because I think that makes you better at all of the things that you do.
Yeah.
I'm
It
a
makes
better
you a better
mom.
mom.
Yeah, I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. I'm a better me. I'm a better everything. And when you think about it, when your kids grow up, your kids, Anika, are old enough to see you
Yeah, to
taking
know.
that leap of faith. And so when
Yeah.
your kids are facing the decision, they'll think back to, oh, I remember when mom, switched her role and it was scary, but she did it. And the same for you, Hala, your kids are young like mine. They won't know specifically, but they'll see what you built by the time they
Yeah.
get old enough to
And
understand.
it's crazy. It's always an expectation for the woman to just, take on that role and kind of leave her career behind. But I mean, it really helps when you have a partner who's also understanding and is also taking care of the kids. Like you're both having equal roles. I know Damien, he's an amazing dad, amazing partner and everything. He's very, very involved, and you need that support because you're also showing this as an example as your kids when they grow up. You can do it all, be a strong woman, you can have it all. I don't feel like you have to pick and choose, but it is a fine balance. I think you can have a great career and also be a great mother with no guilt, you
Right.
know?
Right. I 100% agree. And I'm glad that you brought up that point as far as because we do have spouses, it is. And Chris is the same way. Gavino, Nika's husband, is
Mhm.
the same way, where we look at, in the old days, it was like the wife's responsibility to rear the children and then the man went to work. But then you have, women who come along and are like, no, I have my own aspirations. I want a career and we have children. It is our responsibility to raise our children. You are not on daddy duty. You are not babysitting your own children. Like, these are our children, and it's
Right.
our responsibility to take care of them. And I think it's so beautiful where we are in this day and age, where you have men who understand that and who accept that. I know your husbands are the same, but like Chris has never asked me to shrink myself. He's never asked me to, maybe don't do that, maybe do this, or you should stay home. Like, he's never come from that. He's the biggest cheerleader to be like, no, you can do it. I know Damien was helping you when
Oh,
you were starting your practice and everything. And so I
he's
think
he's
that's
been super helpful with everything, and I always look to him for guidance. He's very business savvy and a lot of experience when it comes to business and accounting, and so he has definitely made this whole process a lot easier for me. He would definitely help me out, and I need to have meeting with attorneys and meeting with realtors and all of that. So he's been super helpful, and like you said, biggest cheerleader from day one. So very blessed. We're very grateful.
right. I was watching this interview. I watch a lot of interviews, if y'all can tell. I was watching this other interview and somebody said something that stuck out to me. And it was a man, and he was saying, you can't be what you don't see. And he was talking about how he went to school in the inner city, and the examples of what was shown to him for specifically minorities was athletes, or somebody just kind of hitting a wild lucky shot and becoming like a celebrity. But you didn't see doctors, lawyers, engineers, dentists. Like, you didn't see that. And so for him, it was never really in the realm of possibility. And he said, you can't be what you don't see. And so I wanted to ask you, I'll start with you, Hala, why, one, do you agree with that? And then two, like, have you made a commitment to making sure that people see
Yeah.
you, so that they know that becoming a dentist is possible for them too?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I see it a lot from my patients, my little patients that come and they're just surprised when you're like, hey, I'm Dr. So and so. And you see the biggest smile on their face. And it really brightens up my day when I see that. It's just like they need to see that we are out here, that you can be anything. But going to dental school, there wasn't a lot of us there either. I'm sure Anika can relate. I mean, we would make up maybe less than 10% of the class. And, I always feel like you have to prove something and kind of go up and above when it comes to being in dental school, because sometimes you might be, you'd felt like you're not welcome there because it's male dominated, Caucasian. And so we, as the minorities, we always had to stick together and help each other out, because it's difficult. It's a lot of work, but it's all worth it at the end. Anika, I'm sure you can relate to all of this. but it's when you do see them in your office, and they're so happy to see you, or even just my adult patients, they're like, oh, we've never seen a Black dentist before.
Right.
Yeah, we're here. But I know it's important for me to give back, because there were some people in dental school that looked like me, and I would always go to them for mentorship. And so I want to provide that, for anybody. I always welcome, the people that want to have like an internship at the office. I know I want to give back to them, and help them out and guide them throughout the whole process. I definitely want to start a scholarship, in the future, within the next year or so, especially for women in science and math. We need more representation in those areas, and definitely us as minorities. So for sure, those are some of my, for sure, I'm offering mentorship, internship right now, but definitely want to offer a scholarship in the near future to help somebody out.
I love it. And that's right in line with why we wanted to do this. It was because it was us creating a way to put people like you, people like her, like out in the front to say, hey, look, we're here. We do coaching for people who say like, hey, I want to be a doctor. I'm like, hey, here's her number. You can call her. She'll help you out, because it is easier when you have someone who comes from the same background as you, or even something as simple as someone who looks like you, for you to be able to do it. But it's the same concept. Like, let's have scholarships. Let's do career days. Let's make ourselves available for people to ask us questions, and to let them know that, it's not easy, right? Like if you're in your first year of dental school, for example, and you're like, man, I can't do this, you get to hear other people say, no, I'm on the other side of it, and it wasn't easy for me, but you can keep doing it. But Anika, what do you think about that statement that you can't be what you don't see? Do you agree with that? And like,
Oh yeah, 100%. That's how I ended up in the community that I worked in, is because we've said before, representation matters. And so it just like Hala said, it warms your heart, especially the little ones. I'm in my office, I was Dr. McStuffins, and it's the cutest thing. I'm not actually Dr.
I love Dr.
McStuffins,
Stuffins.
but yes, I'm Dr. McStuffins, and it's cool for them to see. Here is a physician, and I'm not old, and I don't think I look old. And so here's this young physician. So for my teenage patients, for my adult patients, and then when they would ask where I'm from, because I think sometimes there's an assumption that, oh, well, somebody else is a doctor, or you come from money. And I mean, we came from hard working, blue collar families. We didn't come from money. And so it's you are better than your circumstances. And so when they say, well, where are you from? And then I tell them where I'm from, and they're like, what? That's right around the corner. I'm like, yes, that is where I'm from. This is where I went to high school. I didn't go to private school, and nothing against going to private school. So for anybody out there that has gone to private school, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, for my patients whom I look like, I lived where you live, I went to school where you went to school, I'm taking away your excuses, because you can't say, well, no, I'm Black because I can't go. Then I'm not gonna be able to go. Or, oh no, I went to this high school and not this high school. Or you went to this prestigious college, and it's like, well, no, this is where I went. And so if I can do it, definitely you can do it. And if I can't tell you, then let me show you. And so this is why I'm here. How are you doing this morning? And so representation definitely does matter. And I think that being present and having those to be able to see you and say, you know what, she can do it. Yes, yes, it's going to cost. Yes, it is going to take time, but you're investing time and money into yourself. What better way to spend your time and your money than in yourself, where you're going to get a return on the other side of
Right.
it? So I definitely agree with that statement.
Yeah, and for me, I just always thought about, so I went to high school like in the inner city, and I remember a lot of teachers, when they would get upset, like if the class was being rowdy or something like that, they would say things like, y'all aren't going to amount to anything, like y'all aren't going to be anything. And we had two teachers who had come from like an affluent neighborhood to come and teach at our school. And she was notorious for saying things like that. And so luckily for me, I had my sister who's 4 years older than me and who was like already in college and, had already said she wanted to be a doctor, and I was watching her do it. And then I had a mom who would never let me not believe I could do anything in the world. And so I was coming home to an environment that was encouraging, but I always think about the people who don't have it at home, or who are constantly not just not seeing it, but receiving messages to the opposite effect, that there are people telling them that they're not going to amount to anything, or they're watching TV, or they go to the dentist, or they go to the doctor, and they are not seeing themselves. And so what that's doing to their mind, where they start to think like, you're always trying to figure out where you fit in the world. And if you don't see people that look like you kind of assume that that's not for me, that's for other people. And so it's always been important for me to show representation. Like she said, representation matters. And it's so simple. I'm looking at you now, Hala, and you're gorgeous. And a little girl comes in with her box braids and she sees your hair and she's just like, oh my God, like now they're starting to make Barbies with I bought my daughter one not too long ago. And it's just the simplest things.
Yeah.
Being able to see that and have people, and you say, okay, I see myself in you, and that just opens up a world of possibilities for me. So I think that's great. What advice do y'all have for people who are at those points in their life where they're going to have to make a tough decision, and you want them to choose faith over fear? What advice would you have for them?
So I'll go. I mentioned that, I made a conscious decision in 2020 that I wasn't quite fulfilled. And yes, it's crazy to think who's going to leave their job in the middle of a pandemic. Who you have a secure job, why would you leave your job in the middle of a pandemic? But that's not necessarily the case for some people. It might not have been a conscious decision. I might be at the point where I was laid off and I've always wanted to do something. Is this the time to be able to do it? And so for all of those that are in kind of the same position where 2020 brought about, some changes that either you were not anticipating, or, hey, maybe I'm going to take this time and use this time. I always wanted to go back to school, or I always wanted to do something. And you can definitely, I'm here to tell you, put that faith over your fear, because yes, it is going to be scary. It is absolutely scary, but it is absolutely worth it, because I think the failure is not trying. It's to think it and not do it. Because even if I do it and it doesn't quite pan out how I thought it was, okay, well, then I live, I learn, and I move on. But the fear is, complacency is definitely, I think, failure in itself, especially when I know, hey, I can be doing something different. I can be doing something better. Well, then get up and do it. Get up and do it. The support system, like we have said, the support system definitely matters. So get somebody that's going to be in your corner, that's going to be sound advice. They're not going to have you out here doing something crazy, but do something, have somebody in your corner that's going to give you sound advice. I came home with Gavino, and he sees me in my rarest form. And so he's pointed out to me, you seem so unhappy. And so when I say, because I'm trying to be strong, okay, you can do it, you can do it. And I point out to him, I am unhappy. And he tells me, and I tell him, this is what I think I kind of want to do. And he says, okay. And I'm like, for real? Okay, like, you're not going to talk me out of it? And he was like, what? Why would I talk you out of it? No, let's go for it. And so it does make a difference, because had he said, babe, that's crazy, I don't think you should do that, then I would have probably stumbled backwards and say, you know what, yeah, that probably is crazy. So get those in your corner who you love and who you trust, and is going to give you the honest advice you need, so that you can feel like you get your foot out of that quicksand and take a step forward.
What about you, Hala?
I love that. I agree with that all the way. In addition to that, I would say find a mentor, someone who has done it before, and try to learn from their mistakes. And I think also when you're deciding if you should do this and start your own business, I think finding out the reason that motivates you, why you want to do this, and the purpose behind it, then that will really help you and guide you with your decision. In addition to finding a good mentor, learning from other people's mistakes. Don't try to do this on your own. Talk to people and reach out to people, and use all your resources. So it was a kind of a scary decision for us too. My husband also walked away from his corporate job, and like I said, we were growing our family and expecting our second child. So it was a lot, but just kind of knowing the reasons and my motivation for doing this, and and having freedom and flexibility, and also doing our homework and being financially ready to do something like this, was that kind of eased the decision, and like I left the rest to God. We prayed about it and we've never been steered wrong. And so just knowing that we've done our homework, kind of asked people that have went through it, we've done our part. And so
Right. No, I completely agree with what both of you said. And I just always think that God wouldn't have given you the idea if you didn't already have everything that you needed to execute it. Like the fact that you even sat there and thought, maybe I should open my own practice, or maybe I should like make this transition. Same for me. I started a business as a side hustle in a pandemic. That was terrifying. And for me, it was just the vulnerability of like putting myself out there and talking about experiences and things like that. Like it was easier for me to hide in my corner of the world and not say anything, but I felt an obligation to my community to say no. I wanted to be representation and to bring people like you, Hala and Anika, forward to say, hey, no, we exist and we're here and we want to talk about it. And so and my sister always reminds me of this. It's like God would not have giving you that idea. That is purpose. That is the definition of what purpose is. It's the thing that you feel called to do, even when rationally you're like, this don't make no sense. Like, why am I starting a business in a pandemic? Why am I leaving like, no, God, this doesn't make sense to me. But there is something that's still pulling at you saying, no, this is what I have for you. This is the life that I have for you. You have to lean into that. And it's scary, but that is the definition of faith. It's taking that first step when you can't even see the staircase, and trusting that there is going to be steps there once you take that step. And so we can do nothing else. It is to encourage women, men, whomever watching this, that if there is something that you want to do, especially as it relates to business, do it. Take the step. Don't be afraid. And even if you fall, you reevaluate and you get back up. Because it definitely is worth it on the other side. And like Anika said, I think the worst part would be to have the idea and not do it, and then you leave this earth and you never accomplish the thing that God was putting you here to do in the first place. So Hala, do you want to tell people where they can follow you or find you if they want to like check out your studio?
Yeah, so 1385 Dental Studio on Instagram and on Facebook. We're located in Aubrey, Texas, off of Highway 380. We're very close to Prosper, Frisco, Denton, so centrally located. So yeah, follow us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I think it was great. Like I love talking to people who are like-minded and who have the same ideals. And like you said, the primary purpose is just to motivate other people. You don't go through things to just keep them to yourselves. You go through it to inspire other people to go through their own version of whatever it is they're dealing with.
Thank
So
you
thank
for
you.
having me. I love this. Just keep doing this. This is so positive and inspirational, and I love it. So I was really happy to be here today with you guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. And everybody, we hope y'all have a great week. As always, if y'all need anything, y'all can leave us a comment or you can send us an email at booking@clairemmotivators.com. Bye.